US forces hit a cartel boat near Venezuela, the aftermath will stun you. We are entering a new era of maritime strategy, where the lines between law enforcement and military action are blurring, especially in the volatile waters near South America. The recent engagement of US forces with a suspected drug cartel vessel near Venezuela is not just another isolated incident. It is a stark symbol of a shifting geopolitical landscape and a profound challenge to both national security and international law. Today, we will dive deep into this pivotal operation. We will analyze the tactics, the technology, and the terrifying consequences that are currently reverberating across the hemisphere. For decades, the illicit narcotics trade has plagued this region, but the involvement of highly sophisticated vessels, sometimes believed to be backed by state actors, has raised the stakes dramatically. This incident is a harsh reminder that the war on drugs is evolving into something far more dangerous. This is not a simple game of cat and mouse. This is a confrontation where US Navy assets and specialized Coast Guard units are facing off against incredibly well-funded, technologically savvy criminal organizations. To truly grasp the significance of this event, we must first understand the operational theater. The Caribbean Sea and the surrounding waters are a vital transit zone for drug trafficking destined for the United States and Europe. Venezuela's coastline in particular, due to its political instability and deep-seated corruption, has become a hotbed for these clandestine operations. The country's internal turmoil has created a vacuum, allowing cartels to operate with an astonishing degree of impunity. Their operations are often cloaked under the guise of legitimate fishing or commercial activities, making interdiction a treacherous and high-stakes endeavor. The US Navy, together with the Coast Guard, deploys some of the world's most advanced surveillance and intercept technologies in this area. We are talking about P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft, renowned for their long-range surveillance capabilities, and sophisticated naval destroyers equipped with radar systems that can track even the smallest of surface contacts. The pressure to succeed is immense. A failure to interdict means millions of dollars worth of drugs hitting American streets, fueling a public health crisis that tears apart families and communities. The stakes for the cartels, however, are even higher. They are fighting for their economic survival. This has led to an increased use of go-fast boats and even semi-submersible vessels designed to evade detection. These are not rusty fishing trawlers. These are specialized craft operated by crews who are often heavily armed and highly trained. This brings us to the operational aspect of the interdiction itself. We must focus on the moments leading up to the contact. These operations are rarely random. They are the result of meticulous intelligence gathering, a process involving multiple agencies, including the DEA, the Coast Guard, and the Navy. The decision to engage is almost certainly made at a high command level, predicated on near-certain intelligence that the vessel is actively engaged in drug trafficking, and, critically, that it poses a threat to the US forces involved. The specific moment the US forces decided to hit the cartel boat would have been governed by strict rules of engagement. Typically, the sequence begins with a non-lethal warning, and a clear order to stop and comply with an inspection. When a cartel vessel, especially one known to carry weapons, refuses to comply and attempts to evade, that refusal instantly escalates the situation. In the world of maritime interdiction, the moment a suspect vessel maneuvers aggressively or makes hostile moves, the risk factor skyrockets. Remember, these are highly trained, often desperate individuals on the cartel side who know the stakes. Their mission is non-negotiable, and so is their potential for violence. The actual hit itself, likely involving precision fire from an armed helicopter or a quick reaction boat team, is a display of technological superiority and disciplined training. It is not about sinking the vessel immediately. It is usually about disabling its engines, neutralizing any visible armed threat, and forcing a complete stop. The goal is to preserve evidence, secure the vessel, and detain the crew. This is the military science and the tactical genius at play. We are talking about the capability of a US destroyer to use its sophisticated radar systems and onboard intelligence assets to predict the boat's movements down to the very second. It is a stunning display of power and readiness. However, the real shock, the aftermath that stuns us all, is what happens after the engines die down. This is where the story shifts from a tactical victory to a geopolitical and legal minefield. The location of the incident, near Venezuela, is deliberately vague and crucial. If the cartel boat was clearly operating in international waters, the legal standing of the US interdiction is generally clear under international anti-narcotics agreements. But if the vessel was found operating suspiciously close to or even inside Venezuela's territorial waters, the complexities multiply instantly. This moves the confrontation beyond a simple drug bust and turns it into a diplomatic incident, highlighting the friction between nations. The response from the Venezuelan government, predictably, has been one of outrage and condemnation, accusing the US of violating its sovereignty. This kind of international pressure complicates the entire operation. The US has maintained that its forces were acting under international law in pursuit of criminal organizations, specifically those threatening US national security and public health. This highlights the fundamental challenge in these waters. The cartels exploit the legal ambiguity of the sea to protect their operations. The long-term shock, the aftermath that truly stuns, is not just the interdiction itself, but the recovery and the intelligence haul that follows. Securing the vessel is a race against time, a critical window where US forces must quickly document and seize the illicit cargo before any external interference can occur. The discovery of the cargo is often an operation in itself. These cartels go to extraordinary lengths to conceal their illicit goods, utilizing hidden compartments, false bottoms, and even submerging the cargo within the hull structure. The quantity and purity of the narcotics seized in this incident, whether it was tons of cocaine or other dangerous substances, directly translates into a massive blow against the cartel's financing, a loss they'll feel for months. But the real treasure is not the drugs, it's the intelligence. Think of the modern cartel boat as a floating data center. The recovery teams meticulously seize every piece of electronics, satellite phones, GPS devices, navigation charts, and communication logs. This is the hidden SEO gem of the operation. This data allows analysts to map out supply chains, identify key leaders, expose money laundering networks, and, most critically, understand the corruption linkages within government and military structures that protect these criminal enterprises. This intelligence can lead to far-reaching economic sanctions, legal indictments against high-ranking officials, and subsequent interdictions in the future. The confrontation also has significant geopolitical consequences. The very act of engaging a vessel near Venezuela sends a powerful, unmistakable message from Washington, D.C. to Caracas. The US will actively challenge state-sponsored criminality, even in their perceived backyard. This is not just about drug interdiction. It's a strategic move to destabilize and disrupt criminal networks that directly support adversarial regimes. Furthermore, the post-engagement phase involves a complex legal and diplomatic battle. What happens to the detained crew? Where are they processed? What legal justification is used for the seizure? The US typically seeks to prosecute the crew in federal court, using the interdiction as Exhibit A in a wider case against the cartel's hierarchy. This pursuit of justice is crucial for maintaining deterrence and legitimacy on the world stage. This specific incident, therefore, moves beyond the headline of a successful drug bust. It represents the US military's commitment to projecting power in the face of evolving security threats, and a clear declaration that the waters near Venezuela will no longer serve as a safe, unpoliced corridor for cartel operations. The aftermath will continue to stun as the intelligence seized begins to unravel a complex web of crime, corruption, and international intrigue. Let's zoom out now and look at the sheer weaponry and technology that makes these US interdiction capabilities possible. It's not just a quick hit, it's a sustained, multi-layered operation relying on assets that are the steel monsters of the sea. At the highest level, you have the US. Navy destroyers, like the Arleigh Burke class, acting as the unblinking eye of the entire operation. These ships are not primarily drug interceptors, but their presence provides the solid rock of command, control, and intelligence gathering. Equipped with the Aegis combat system, they process intelligence data in real time, often receiving feeds from multiple sources, satellites, drones, and the P-8 Poseidon aircraft we mentioned earlier. This coordination is the difference between a near miss and a successful neutralization of a threat. The destroyer acts as the information gatekeeper, ensuring that every tactical asset, down to the smallest Coast Guard interceptor boat, has the most accurate picture of the developing threat. Next in the chain, and often the actual agents of the hit, are the Coast Guard's specialized tactical teams and the Legend-class cutters. The cutters are floating fortresses in their own right, combining long-range patrols with the capacity to launch high-speed interceptor boats. These smaller boats are the fast, sharp teeth of the operation. Their crews are trained to execute the pit stop maneuver, a high-risk, high-reward tactic where the interceptor boat pulls alongside the suspect vessel at high speed. Imagine the adrenaline rush. The split-second decisions required to board a moving vessel in rough seas, knowing the crew inside is armed and desperate. The most critical component, often unseen, is the surveillance technology. The cartels have adapted. They use low-profile vessels, LPVs, and semi-submersibles, narco-subs, designed specifically to evade radar. But the US, Navy and Coast Guard have adapted faster. They employ advanced infrared and acoustic sensors, essentially turning the entire ocean into a highly sensitive listening and viewing field. This technological edge is what turns the invisible threat into a visible target. It's a constant, high-stakes, technological arms race. The cartels innovate their stealth, and the US forces counter with superior intelligence and precision. This commitment to detailed, accurate information is what gives US forces their decisive advantage. Now, let's drill down into the very essence of the naval superiority displayed in engagements like this, the fusion of intelligence and firepower. It is not enough to simply spot the cartel vessel. The US must also be able to strike it with surgical precision to minimize unintended consequences, especially given the proximity to sovereign territory. This is where the Tomahawk missile technology, though not used for drug interdiction, often dictates the standard of precision and sophistication that the Navy operates with. The Tomahawk, with its thousands of miles of range and ability to fly through city streets and hit a single window, sets the bar for smart weaponry. While smaller, specialized weapons are used in interdiction, the mindset of unrivaled accuracy permeates every level of training and planning. The air support element is often provided by armed helicopters like the MH-60R Seahawk. These aircraft are essentially flying intelligence and weapons platforms. They can loiter above the target, providing real-time video feed to the command center, and deploy highly accurate machine gun or sniper fire to disable engines or neutralize active threats without destroying the vessel. The goal, always, is controlled chaos, where force is applied precisely and decisively. For the sailor on the ground, or the pilot in the air, this is about more than just a job. It's about being a part of a mission that protects American security and enforces global maritime law, often relying on personal stories and the backstage details of courage and split-second command decisions to succeed. Consider the operational readiness required. AUS. Navy ship or Coast Guard cutter is essentially a micro-city of readiness, where thousands of hours of training go into ensuring that when that critical moment arrives, the response is instantaneous and flawless. This level of passion and reliability is what separates a routine patrol from a legendary operation. The weapons technology is stunning, yes, but the human element, the disciplined, highly skilled sailors and airmen, is the ultimate factor in success. They are the ones transforming the dry technical specifications into compelling stories of duty and valor. In conclusion, the aftermath of the hit near Venezuela is still unfolding. It is a story not just of drugs and destroyers, but of ever-evolving technology, unyielding determination, and the intricate historical context of America's naval power. It is a narrative of an enduring commitment to protect the sea lanes and, by extension, the security of the nation. It reminds us that behind every bold headline, there are complex geopolitical maneuvers and the silent, powerful presence of US naval might. The final aspect of the stunning aftermath is how this incident, and others like it, drives the future of naval weaponry and strategy. Every successful and unsuccessful interdiction provides invaluable data for engineers and strategists. For instance, the use of narco submarines has pushed the US Navy to accelerate the development of anti-submarine warfare, ASW, capabilities tailored for shallow, coastal waters, a different challenge entirely from deep ocean ASW. This means new, more sensitive sonar systems and a greater reliance on unmanned underwater vehicles, UUVs that can operate undetected closer to shore. The evolving nature of the threat is also changing the very design of naval vessels. Future Coast Guard cutters and Navy patrol craft are being built not just for speed, but for maximum adaptability and intelligence fusion, essentially taking the lessons learned from stopping a small, fast cartel boat and applying them to the design of a full-sized vessel. This involves better sensor integration, more flexible launch and recovery systems for small boats and drones, and improved protection for boarding teams. We are seeing a direct link between low-profile, high-stakes engagements like the one near Venezuela and the multi-billion-dollar investments in next-generation naval technology. The war on drugs is inadvertently funding a new wave of military technological advancement. Furthermore, these engagements serve as crucial, real-world training scenarios. They test the limits of human endurance, tactical decision-making, and technological reliability under extreme pressure. Every successful engagement story is meticulously reviewed, analyzed, and integrated back into the training curriculum at naval bases across the United States. This guarantees that future generations of sailors and Coast Guard personnel are trained not just on historical data, but on the real, current threats they will face. The lessons learned in the choppy, contested waters of the Caribbean are now defining the doctrine for operations across the globe. It is a continuous loop. Cartel innovation drives military necessity, which in turn results in technological superiority. And for those who love the history of military technology, watching this evolution unfold in real time, seeing how a small drug boat clash can shape the naval fleets of tomorrow, is truly fascinating and deeply rewarding. It proves that even the smallest skirmishes can have the largest, most stunning aftermaths.